Hello, my name is Giori Politi, and today I'm going to talk about designing the audio-based game mechanics in the game Blind Drive. Just a few words about myself. I'm a sound designer based in Tel Aviv, working mostly on games, VR and AR experiences, animation videos, and interactive installations. I'm a co-founder and member of Lo-Fi People, which is an art and technology collective who creates playful and unconventional digital experiences. In many of my sound design projects, I'm trying not only to support the experience with audio, but to bring the audio to the center of the experience. And this is exactly what I did in Blind Drive. Together with my fellow game developer D.A. Ter, we created a complete game based only on sound. Blind Drive is a black comedy adventure meets fast-paced arcade gameplay driven by a crazy B-movie plot. And before I dive in with some game mechanics example, I will play a short trailer for those of you who doesn't know the game.
Donnie here.
Start driving.
What the hell? Wait! Hey!
Do you have ears?
I hope you made life insurance! What the? The windows? Really?
I was worried you'd catch a cold.
Oh shit.
In the game you play as Donnie, who signed up for a scientific experiment, but quickly finds himself over his head, forced to drive a car while blindfolded and chained to the steering wheel. So he has to survive the road using only his ears. You play the game from Donnie's point of view, behind the steering wheel, so most of the sounds and foley in the game were recorded with a binaural microphone setup like this. It's basically a dummy head with a microphone in each ear, and it gives a very realistic sound recording. There are some graphics in the game, but they don't give the player any information or help with the gameplay. They only serve as an atmospheric purpose. Okay, so let's go into the mechanics. The basic mechanic of the game is that you drive against traffic in the middle of a two-lane road. Cars are coming in the left or in the right lane, and you have to hold to the opposite side in order to avoid them. This is quite a simple, straightforward arcade mechanic. It would be very easy to understand if we would use graphics, but without, when you have to paint the whole scene and interaction with sound alone, it gets a bit more complicated. So how did we do it? First of all, a precise sound design that really puts you in the driver's seat of a fast-riding car. So having all the elements such as the car's engine, the tire roll on the asphalt, the wind howling in the windows, small bumps on the road, etc. The second thing here is clear and precise sonic feedback for your controls. Every time you hold a key or using your gamepad, you hear a sharp tire skid sound. As for the enemies, the cars, a very clear, distinct and iconic sound with a clear approach ramp, so you really hear when they're getting close and pass you. Shoulder indication to mark the limits of the game scene. If you hold for too long to one side, you start drifting off-road and hear some dirt and rumble sounds, and if you don't release, you'll crash. Now, the only missing information to the player here is to let them know their basic position is in the middle of the road between the two lanes. Some players somehow gets it intuitively, but we didn't want to leave room for any doubt, so here we used voice acting. In certain part of the story, very naturally, the kidnapper tells Donnie on the phone, "Just drive straight in the middle of the road between the two lanes." So voice acting helps to deliver a more complex information to the players, and it can replace graphical tutorials and UI indications. The trick is to incorporate the informative parts in the script so they won't sound too didactic and will integrate organically into the story. So let's hear how this basic mechanic sounds in the game. Every time you get hit, you lose a life, and if you get hit 3 times, you crash. Sometimes you can get life back. So to keep the player informed with how many life left, we added a small ping alert sound that plays every time you get hit, indicating the remaining life. And to keep this sound within the car sound language, we used an alert sound like the one you hear when you leave your lights on. This is how this indication sounds like. So a few variations on this basic mechanic in the game includes driving with the window closed, so all the sounds are now muffled and you have to be more focused in order to survive. Or driving with the radio on. The music distracts you and it's harder to hear the cars through the blasting radio. Let's hear this one. Other variation on this includes driving through a tunnel, so there is a long reverb that blends everything together, or driving in the rain, so you have to listen carefully through the rain, the windshield wipers, and many water splash sounds. And another one is driving off-road, so you have to add dirt and rumble sounds, and now your enemies are not cars, but animals and some tractors. And driving underwater, so your cars become kind of a submarine and your enemies are now dolphins, whales, torpedoes, etc. Another aspect of the game is bonuses. In our case, these are cyclists and ice cream trucks you have to hit that give you a huge power-ups. Now you not only have to avoid every sound you hear, but you have to listen to the content of the sound itself and make a decision if to avoid or to hit it. This adds another layer of difficulty. Here is one example. After some time with the basic mechanic, we wanted to introduce some new gameplays, so we went for boss fights. The first boss in the game is the police. It's built after some bosses in classic games such as Mario or Zelda or the more recent Cuphead game. So this is how it works. In a certain part of the story, the police find you and start driving just behind you. Regular cars still coming from in front, and from time to time the police try to attack you from the side and take you off-road. When they're on your side, you have a short time window to try and hit them before they hit you. It's a short window of about half a second. This is how it sounds.
Yeah! Take that!
In the police level, we came across this issue. What is the difference between the sound when the police car hits you, which is negative, and the sound when you hit the police, which is positive? They are both car impact sounds. So after a few experiments, we solve it like this. Hit intensity and sharpness. So the positive hit when you hit the police sounds rounder and softer, and the negative hit where you get hit by the police is sharper and more intense. Plus, the tire skid sounds are much more intense in the negative version. Let's hear it. This is only the impact layers. The positive version. and the -1. Much more intense. Another thing we added to make this even clearer is a layer of positive bleep sound, only in the positive hit version. And last thing on top of this, so you won't have any doubts what just happened, is using the voice acting of Donnie, amplifying the situation. And this is how everything sounds together. This is the positive version.
Gotcha!
And the -1.
Hey, cut it out!
Another common mechanic in the game is dodging gunshots, and this is all about reflexes. Gunshots in the game can come from all kinds of directions, and the thing here is to move to any other place other than the one you are at when you hear the gunshot. In real life, if you hear a gunshot, and I hope you don't, you have just a few milliseconds until it hits you. But in the game there is about 400 to 500 milliseconds, depends on which difficulty you play, from the moment you hear the gunshot until it hits you. Half a second sounds quite a lot, but in the context of the game, it's really just the right amount of time you need in order to hear the gunshot, react quickly, and avoid them. Here's an example. In this case, this was another boss you have to beat, but this mechanic repeats in few different places in the game. So by far the most difficult mechanic in our game to design and to play as well was the last boss in the game, the chopper. In this scene, you drive in the bad guy's headquarters, your grandma is on the car's roof holding a bazooka rocket launcher, and apart from regular enemies on the road, there is a chopper circling around your head, trying to take you down with a machine gun. Now, you have certain time windows where the chopper is out of ammo and going far for a reload, and then you have to chase him off-road, and your grandma tries to take him down with her bazooka rocket launcher. So what helped us to deliver this scene was a precise three-dimensional mix. So each sound will have its own position in the 3D space, so the player will be aware of where things are very precisely. Plus, pacing the actions over time so they won't overlap, and each detail will have its own spot. This is how this scene sounds like.
You got it, Grandma! Hey, Grandma!
What?
Love you!
I know. Not now. Look out!
Oh, sorry.
While playtesting the game, we found it was really hard to anticipate how good one will be in playing an audio-based game. No specific skill set could give us a prediction of how one will succeed in the game. That's why we ended up doing 3 different difficulty levels for the game. And the aspects that impacted the difficulty the most were pacing, so how fast enemies are coming at you. Anyway, there were no overlaps. It's an hard rule. Every important gameplay information has to have its own spot. Sound density. Although our brain can process many sounds together, it's harder to distinguish and not get distracted by an unimportant information. So more information mean harder to play. Sound clarity. So enemies and other gameplay information should sound very clear, iconic, and precise. If you make an enemy sound softer or less sharp, it has a straight impact on the difficulty. And last one, mix. The level of different elements and the balance between the gameplay information and the background atmospheric information. We found there is one axis, which is on one side playability and on the other side immersion. If you go too much towards immersion, so the experience is not playable at all, it sounds cool, but not playable. And if you go too much towards playability, you lose immersion and realism. So the real key is somehow to find the sweet spot between those two in order to create a powerful and interactive experience. That was all for today. Thank you very much for listening, and if you have any question or a comment, please feel free to reach out by email or on Twitter. Thanks and have a great day.